Okay, so good afternoon. Very exciting day for us today as we announce and look forward to season 2025. This is probably our most ambitious, boldest and biggest season schedule in my time as CEO, and I'm very excited that today we can unlock and unleash the season 2025 draw for both the NRL and NRLW competitions to our fans. This year we have 284 fixtures, 29 teams playing over 32 weeks. More content and more rugby league for our fans than ever before. There'll be 33 double headers with the NRL and NRLW clubs playing at the same time. 18 of those will be derbies where the men's and women's teams will play against the same home and away matchup. That's incredibly exciting for our fans. Much more integration, much more enjoyment for both the players and the fans to get to experience both their men's and women's teams playing at their home stadium. And obviously we kick off in Las Vegas, and we're taking around 3 different countries, Australia, the USA, Australia and New Zealand, playing in metro and regional areas. And the game is looking to grow, and there's no better sign of growth than this schedule. And amidst much of the complexity, amidst much of the constraints that we face in putting together the schedule, I'd like to acknowledge and thank all the clubs for their participation, the Rugby League Players Association, our broadcast partners, and of course the hard-working staff here at the NRL who have worked day and night over the last couple of weeks to put together an incredibly exciting schedule for our fans. Any questions?
Andrew, it's a draw, but also for the fans, it's about the narratives, and particularly early in the first 4 or 5 rounds, there's a lot of intriguing matchups, whether it be the Roosters Rabbitohs rivalry, like Gutherson and Lomax playing against their other clubs. It's sort of front-loaded with a lot of interesting matchups.
Yes, and that's the beauty about our game. It's so tribal, and there are lots of great storylines, and that's what our fans love. And so the ability to front load the start of the season with some exciting blockbusters, traditional rivalries and new ones based on player movements, etc., is all part of the fun and excitement for the first couple of weeks. And to be honest, I can't wait.
Las Vegas, you're already advertising in Sin City about the games going there next year. Is that one of the lessons you learned from the first time around in Vegas, that you need to get the product out there and early?
Yeah, obviously every time you do something for the first time, you get great lessons and insights on what you want to do next. But this was the timing worked out quite fortuitously for us, in that a cheeky opportunity whilst all eyes are on Vegas ahead of the Formula One and other activities. A takeover with our partners at the stadium and at the hotel and in Fremont Street was a unique way for us to showcase that the best sports entertainment was still to come, and it was coming in March. And this time we're coming bigger and bolder than ever. A women's fixture, a Super League fixture, and obviously the 2 opening games of the NRL as well. So a great opportunity for us to get our US fans excited for an even bigger Las Vegas 2025.
Has motorsport thrown a stick in the spokes though back home? I mean, the ROC's on at a core where they've got to build a whole racetrack, and you don't play for the first 3 rounds there. Is that an unforeseen problem?
Well, we're aware of it, so it's a foreseen problem. There are plenty of them. Let me tell you, there is nothing quite like understanding the constraints. I mean, we have a club that doesn't have a stadium for the entire season. That's Penrith. We have stadiums that have bookings ahead of us, whether it be other sports or whether it be major concerts. And that's where I have to compliment again the clubs and our team here at the NRL, working day and night to figure out ways in which we can optimise and work around that. And they've done a phenomenal job. Every year we're throwing up some unique challenges, and this year we set ourselves the goal of trying to get more integration between the men's and women's competition, and that's been a great achievement for us. But there are lots of anomalies and there are lots of challenges. Penrith not being able to play in their home stadium means they're playing at a stadium with other clubs, and we had to work really well with the club on how we overcome that and ultimately get a pretty good result.
Talk about the challenges of the draw. I think that's the fewest 5-day turnarounds in the history of the NRL. Can you talk about how challenging it is to sort out the permutations of making sure that actually happens? I understand it goes into the machine and it spits out millions of different things. Can you give an insight into fans just how tough that is?
Marty, I'm glad you asked that question because I failed to mention just how important it is to focus on player well-being and player welfare. And we've worked really collaboratively with the RLPA through this process. And the reduction in 5-day turnarounds is a key was a key goal of ours and a key input into the process. So it's a 20% reduction. This will be the lowest 5-day turnarounds we've had for many, many years. And that's important because it is a long season. And so the use of the 3 bars and minimizing 5-day turnarounds was a key component of this. As for the second part of your question, in terms of the complexity and how the system actually solves for that, I can't answer that question. I'll leave that to the software.
Adrian mentioned some of those blockbuster games early in the season. One of those Bulldogs versus Eels with Josh Adokar now on the Eels. We know he's got that suspension though. Could you potentially apply to count the All-Stars game towards that? Is the NRL open to that, considering that?
Well, he can definitely make application for that. We don't have anything in front of us at the moment. There are a few considerations that we would work through prior to answering that question, but it is theoretically possible and there's a precedent for that.
Just as a follow-up to that question, can Latrell and Josh play in the All-Stars game?
So it's the same, I guess the same answer applies to Latrell as it does to Josh, in that a player and a club can make application if they are serving suspension to have a representative fixture, and we count the All-Stars as a representative fixture for that to count. But there are a few considerations that need to be taken into account before I can answer that definitively. And we don't have an application in front of us, and when we do, we'll consider it on its merits and consider the likelihood of selection and a number of other factors.
Just on All-Stars, there was talk that it might be moved to the back end of the season. You're happy at saying before the season? Can you just talk us through the thinking there?
Look, the pre-season and the post-season are incredibly important periods for us, and the pre-season is about getting ready for and the excitement of the season. The post-season, we're obviously focusing on the highly successful Pacific Championships and thinking about how the international game can grow. We're always thinking about what's best for our fans, and we're also taking into account feedback from the players and from the clubs. And so we have looked at and reviewed the placement of All-Stars, thinking about how we can make it even bigger and better and refresh the concept. And through that stakeholder consultation, part of the consideration was looking at the placement at the back end of the season. At this particular point in time, though, the overarching feedback and consideration, when you look at everything, was to leave All-Stars where it is as part of the pre-season for now. But that'll get, we continuously look at ways in which we can optimise, and that'll be something we consider down the track as well.
And just, you mentioned before the double-header opportunity for the NRLW with the NRL and those fixtures, but I guess the other side of that is that I think 30 of the 66 NRLW matches now don't have clear air. They're played at the same time as men's matches. Is that ideal, that scenario? And I mean, the argument could be, is the NRLW in its right spot at the end of a season? Is it pre-season, early season competition a better way to go?
Few parts to that question, Scott. Just under 30. It's about. It's not quite 30. Look, it's a good question, and ultimately we had to consider a number of factors into this. The feedback from the players and the clubs was pretty strong. They, the female players want to play on weekends in front of their home crowds, and the opportunity for the clubs to celebrate having both their teams play at the same stadium was one consideration. The other consideration is a lot of the female players have jobs or are studying. They aren't full-time professionals. And so playing games on a Thursday and a Friday in non-optimal periods, or even very early on a Saturday, has an impact on them. And so we've taken that into account. We've worked collaboratively with the Players Association. We've listened to the players. We've listened to the clubs. And on balance, the view to playing more games on a Saturday afternoon and a Sunday afternoon was taken. And I'm proud to say that delivers our fans something that they want. That's seeing double headers at home in front of a great atmosphere. Now, obviously, you do trade off certain things in terms of clear air. But we still do have games that are played, for example, on a Thursday night, prime time on free to air. That's a great opportunity to get that balance taking into account. So it is a trade-off, but I'm excited to see how this unfolds, and it is, and we've made the decision by listening to our key stakeholders.
And as for the time of the year, your confidence?
Yeah, I was hoping you weren't going to remind me of the second, the third, or the fourth part of your question. No, I mean, it's a great question. We're always thinking about what is optimal for us. We've taken the view, and the Commission is of the view that rugby league is a winter sport. We play, and I think there's something pretty special about the fact that we have a men's and women's competition that runs through winter. Just look at State of Origin. This year, we had a first ever 3-match women's State of Origin played in the middle of winter. Next year, we have a shortened women's State of Origin that leads into men's State of Origin. And then we have the start of the Women's Premiership. What is the beauty about where we currently play? We play 2 grand finals. Like there are not many sports in the world that has that opportunity where the culmination of both seasons takes place in this wonderful celebration where you get 40,000 fans watching an NRLW grand final live. Like, it's pretty special. Then you talk about the double headers, which I've spoken about. Then you talk about things like Indigenous round. This year we'll get the opportunity to play an Indigenous round for both the men's and the women's competition. All of these things are X factors and they're so unique for our sport. So for us, I believe the season is in the right place. Rugby league is a winter sport. I think the synergy of the two competitions far outweighs any trade-offs around being able to play at the same time. And certainly I'm pretty excited about the first ever NRLW Magic round. That's round 5 in Newcastle. All of this sort of taking place throughout the heartbeat of a season, which, yes, it's 32 weeks, but just so much for fans to look forward to.
Another hot topic, the NRL expansion. Where are we up to on this? We understand
12 teams.
Yeah. There was some talk that Lenny's is going to meet with WA Premier. We know was it successful?
I thought you were talking about the NRLW expansion.
No.
And welcome to the Bulldogs and the Warriors. I mean, it's so good that we're at the point where, as a sport, we're talking about getting bigger and being more bolder around expansion, both men's and women's competitions. And so, as I said, next year we move from 10 to 12 women's competitions. We're at 17 men's, and we're in discussions with the federal government around Papua New Guinea, as you know. We're in discussions with Western Australia government about a team in Western Australia, and we know that there are other markets that are hungry for and have shown interest in the team, whether it's Queensland or New Zealand. This is pretty exciting for us. So we're hard at work looking at the business case, looking at strategically what is in the best interests of the game and its stakeholders, and working with all our stakeholders with regards to that. And we're getting closer on a number of fronts. I don't have anything to announce today, but I can say to you, this is an exciting time for us. We're heavy in those negotiations, and anything we do will have a very, very strong business case which we'll present.
How likely do you think WA could be? Like, can fans over there start to get a little bit excited, or is it still?
Well, it's a pretty exciting time because we'll be playing State of Origin in Perth next year, and we know that we've got some club games happening there. So plenty of rugby league content in Perth next year, which I think, Danica, is something we can all get very excited about.
Andrew Abdo has finished a stint in rehab, apparently today. Does that help his standing with the NRL, or will everything come down to what happens in court?
No, look, I'm not going to comment on any specific integrity matter that's live and before the courts. So I'll reserve any comment on that. Obviously, we want to see Ezra recover. We want him doing well. His welfare is really important. But clearly, we need to wait for the criminal process and the court process to conclude. Then we can take our action and consider any breaches of the NRL rules. And then it's about helping in the supporting players. We all make mistakes. I've said this before. It sounds like a cliche, but it's important to say. We're all human beings. We all make mistakes. There are consequences for those mistakes. But equally, our job as a governing body is not just to regulate and to sanction, but also to help and support our players and all stakeholders in the game. So I won't say anything specifically about Ezra other than wishing him well and waiting for the court process to conclude.
Andrew, just I don't know if there's one about expansion there. The Dolphins have as many free-to-air games as the Broncos this year, which is probably a sign of how quickly the Dolphins are growing in popularity. Does that play into your thinking on expansion? Because obviously it shows that there's a market there for expansion in Queensland and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the Dolphins are a great test case for what's possible. And we didn't see cannibalisation of the Queensland or even the Brisbane market. We've seen now rivalries that all teams are benefiting from. So I think the Dolphins is a test case because they've come out and been exemplary in terms of being new to the competition yet competing on the field and off the field. I mean, that's key. It's not many people are aware of this, but outside of the Dolphins being incredibly competitive in the premiership, and in terms of their commercial success, it's been phenomenal. And of course, as we know, the rivalry that exists now between the Dolphins and the Broncos is something that adds to the rivalry that already exists in the game. So I think it is a great test case. And you'll notice in the draw for Magic Round this year, the Dolphins are going to play on the Friday night, which has traditionally been a Broncos game. And the Broncos fans get a chance, which is quite rare for them, to see some footy on a Sunday afternoon. So it opens up so much for us. And as I said earlier, we're in a fortunate position where we're talking about expansion so positively and thinking very strategically and carefully about where those teams are based and who they are.
Regional round. Why did big centres like Coffs Harbour and Tamworth miss out?
Yeah, look, there are constraints, and clubs have 12 home games in the NRL, and in the NRLW they have 5 home games. So there's only so many games that can be taken away from their core stadium. Teams choose to take home games to Las Vegas and to Magic Ground and to Perth and other regional centres. So there is still a lot of regional football. We'll be playing obviously the NRLW Magic Ground in Newcastle as well. But every year presents a different opportunity. Clubs work with different councils, and some years some councils miss out. But hopefully over the next cycle of the next couple of years, we can make sure that we can get back to regional areas that support and have rugby league as a heartbeat of the community. That's always important to us.
The AFL's been pretty open about opening round and trying to come into the heartland of rugby league. How much did that come into play when it comes to playing the draw of the NRL, making sure that threat stays away?
Oh, look, I mean, we have enough complexities and constraints in our draw that we really are razor sharp focused on rugby league and NRL and NRLW and those types of constraints. Of course, if there's an opportunity for us to think about where we strategically place something, then we'll take advantage of that too. And you might notice that in a few places in our draw this year.
A cause close to your heart, and do you see the women NRLW as the winner for the draw in 2025?
Well, I think fans are the winners with this draw because we've got more football, we've got more content, we've obviously with the added teams, and I think that the opportunity for fans to get to see NRL and NRLW games, at the same event is something worth celebrating, and is certainly an X factor for this year's draw.
And the part-time aspect that you touched on with the women, is that a concern when it comes to player pool and expansion, or do you think you've got enough players?
It's funny, like as we've expanded the NRLW competition, we just get more and more superstars coming out of our system, and whether they come from touch football or tag football, or they've been playing the game for many years, or they come from other sports, I think female athletes are seeing the NRLW as the pinnacle of a contact sport globally. And so we're attracting great athletes through our pathway systems, which is important. We've got now age group tackle competitions at all ages across the country, but also we're attracting talent from other codes and other countries. That's a good position for us to be in. And as a result, as we've expanded, we've not seen any dilution in the quality of football. If anything, the football is getting better. And that's credit to the athletes and credit to the high performance environment that the clubs have created.
Just last one, Ezra, before that court case week next in December. If that does get adjourned to mid-last next year or somewhere further, he's just free to play up until that point. Is that right?
Yes, currently he is, yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.